Well, first, I don't know if I have the guts of Sebastian Younger, and I don't characterize myself as someone who enjoys risk or gravitate towards risk. Um, Although I did say that I gravitate toward the border between order and anarchy, which at times could entail risk. So, but if you're going to spend 2 months in the Amazon, the risk is more illness. Um, what's the calculus? I guess the calculus is that when I put myself in those kinds of situations, which is rare, far rarer than a guy like Sebastian Younger or guys who seek out men or women who seek out war zones. I go because I want to know. I and that's the addiction. Not I need to be in a particular place where there's violence going on. I just want to know. I want to know more. I want to understand. And sometimes understanding involves, well, I went into Somalia alone on a plane with a warlord, with uh, Muhammad Adid, who took over for Senior Adid, who you recall from Black Hawk Down, down the U.S. servicemen. So some people would say it's dangerous to go in alone, on a plane with him, but it didn't feel dangerous. It just felt like a couple of guys. That could be a delusion. Um, I spent 4 days in Brazil. I don't know if you recall the murder of a Brazilian rubber union leader named Chico Mendes. This goes back way 20, 30 years ago. He'd helped stop a Inter-American Development Bank loan to Brazil, and he was shot. So I landed up spending 4 days with the guy who is believed ordered the death. Of course, the irony is I didn't know he was the guy who everybody believed ordered the death when I was spending the 4 days with him. Although by the end of the second hour, when people began tapping me on the shoulder and whispering, "That's the guy, Chico Mendes," I began to suspect that he was that guy. But it was two guys. It was two people, and sitting with Muhammad Adid, it was two guys, and sitting with his warlord, it was two guys. Now that may seem naive, and it probably is. But you asked about what's the calculus that makes me go into these areas. I don't feel in danger. I just feel like if you're with somebody and you've made a human connection, and hopefully you're not fooling yourself for that brief period where you're there, if they truly believe you're going to tell their story, and I do want to tell their story because I want to understand it, that you'll get out. And what can I say? So far, I got out, but for all I know, I might not have gotten out. But there was one time in South Africa when I thought that it would be over in a couple of minutes. And it was just before South Africa made the transition to black rule, when white rule ended. It was the waning days. An outside magazine had sent me, and the assignment was, well, if you're a humanitarian person and you like to travel, is it too soon to go to South Africa? Because let's wait till the country changes over. Let's not give support to that white government. And I'd been there in that capacity. But in order to write the story, I had to explore more. And I landed up in one of the townships um, in Johannesburg on a day when 7 days previously, there'd been a riot between two tribal groups and 30 people got hacked to death. And on that day, I landed up in a field backed against a fence with a photographer and 10,000 people on a soccer field chanting, "Give us 5 minutes," which meant give us 5 minutes and we'll rip the place apart. Beer was going around, shots were going off, machetes were waving, and the police had pulled back, and we were backed against this fence. And I have to tell you, that was the only time, but it was a big time. I didn't think I was going to get out of there. And Providence intervened because it started to drizzle. And I have to tell you, when it started to drizzle like a fire, you could just feel the rage start to smolder and dissipate a tiny little bit. And the soldiers had apparently pulled back, but opened up a corridor for that crowd to get out. And they slowly began snaking their way out still chanting, "Give us 5 minutes," but going past us, and then they were gone. So that was a terrifying moment. But even that day, I didn't realize I was going into a dangerous place, because when we got there in the morning, it was 10 people, and then 50, and then 100, and then 1,000. And by the time there was 5,000, we were back against the fence. So no, I don't seek danger, but I really like to go to I just want to know.